What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Red Seat Radio. My name is Corbin. It's officially that time of year again, right? The weather's getting warmer, Fenway Park's coming alive again. Baseball's close to being the only major sport on TV. What that means is the All Star break is coming up. So that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about the guys that I think on the Red Sox that should make this All Star team, whether they're a shoo-in or possibly a dark horse, someone you guys probably didn't expect. We're going to talk about all of that today. But before I get into that, do me a favor, make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're new here, we talk Red Sox content almost every single day. And on top of that, we're only about 250 subscribers away from 1,500. So help us get there. Also, make sure you guys hit the like button on these videos because it helps out these videos a ton. And do me a favor, if you enjoy this video, share with a friend who also loves the Red Sox as much as you do. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one. Let's get into it. So what I did is I broke this into categories. Broke it into categories ranging from the most obvious answers to the least obvious answers. And we're going to start with the obvious ones. Get those out of the way. And the first obvious one who should/will make an all-star team is Rafael Devers. With the first half he's had this year, he is a legitimate MVP candidate going forward throughout the rest of the year. So being in the all-star game just makes sense. The only thing with Rafael Devers is there's some competition for him to start at third base, with Jose Ramirez having the year he's having. But I dove deep into the numbers between Jose and Rafael Devers, and I still think Rafael Devers should be a starter for this AL All-Star team. And the reason I say that is because Rafael Devers has 20 more hits than Jose Ramirez. He has more RBIs, more doubles, the same amount of home runs, and on top of that, Rafael Devers leads Jose Ramirez in defensive WAR, which is kind of wild to say. I don't think I'd ever say that Rafael Devers was a better third baseman than Jose Ramirez, but statistically through the first half, he has been. In my opinion, that is more than enough to grant him the ability to start the All-Star game, and he probably should start the All-Star game. But when we're talking in terms of just making the All-Star team, Rafael Devers is a shoo-in. The second guy I want to talk about is Xander Bogaerts, and Xander has also had a pretty impressive first half of this year. The only issue with Xander Bogaerts is while Rafael Devers only had one person to compete with for a starting job, Xander Bogaerts has two. But I also dove deep into their statistics too, and this is what I came up with. The first guy fighting for a starting role on this team is Tim Anderson. Now, Tim Anderson has had a very good first half of this year, but he's hurt, one. And two, when you look at the statistics, Xander Bogaerts has a higher OPS, many more doubles, way more RBIs, and a much higher WAR in total than Tim Anderson, which in my opinion is enough to put him over the top statistically and put him into that starting role. The other guy he's competing with is Jeremy Pena. Jeremy Pena has had a fantastic rookie season so far, and he should definitely be in the conversation for this all-star team. However, when you compare him to Xander Bogaerts, offensively, Xander Bogaerts kind of crushes. Xander Bogaerts leads Jeremy Pena in OPS plus. He's got a higher slug, a higher OPS, and a higher average than Jeremy Pena. He also has more doubles and RBIs. Really, the only category that Jeremy Pena leads Xander Bogaerts in offensively is home runs. Now, defensively, Jeremy Pena kind of washes Xander Bogaerts, but when you're talking about voting for an all-star game, you're talking about a lot of casual fans and stuff like that. Let's be honest here, defensive metrics don't play into their decision as much as offensive metrics do. And those are really the only two guys that I think are obvious shoo-ins to the All-Star game. The next category I have is kind of the guys in the middle. The guys that should be in this All-Star game, but are going to have a difficult time getting into it. And there's only one person I have in this category, and you probably already guessed him, and that's JD Martinez, who's had one of, if not the best first half of his entire career. Unfortunately for JD, the guy who he's competing against is absolutely dominating right now, and that's Yordan Alvarez. He has had one of the best first half years of his career and pretty much of all time for any DH. He has been absolutely killing it. In fact, he leads JD Martinez in everything but average and OBP. So in my opinion, Yordan Alvarez is the clear starter in this All-Star game, but JD Martinez deserves the recognition to at least be on this team. My only issue with JD Martinez being a reserve, I think he should be a shoo-in to be a reserve, but here's why I put him in this category, not the shoo-ins. The big reason why is because for the most part, it's the best players, but also there are some players that maybe shouldn't have made it in there. They weren't having the best offensive or defensive season, but because their name is so recognizable, they get the votes. And one of those guys I'm talking about is Shohei Ohtani. Shohei Ohtani was a clear MVP last year. He's struggling a bit this year, but the name alone could be enough to push him past JD and put him into the All-Star game, which is unfortunate because, again, JD Martinez deserves the recognition. He is the second best DH in all of baseball right now. And the last category I want to talk about are the dark horses, the guys that have a long shot at making this All-Star team, but there's still a chance, and I think they definitely deserve to at least be looked at when you're considering voting. The first guy I want to talk about is Trevor Story. Now, when you're talking about AL All-Stars, you're talking about second base specifically. The obvious choice is Altuve, right? It's not even really close. He's been the best second baseman all of the AL this year. And in all honesty, the AL second base category isn't as jam-packed as it has been in years past. But there is a case to be made for Trevor Story. When you look at their statistics, Trevor Story has a much worse batting average, yes, but he's only 3 home runs away from Jose Altuve. They have about the same amount of doubles, and he has double the amount of RBIs that Jose Altuve does. Not to mention, they have the exact same WAR, which means that if Trevor Story in the next couple of weeks can get hot and start to bring that average up and get himself in front of MLB Twitter and YouTube and stuff like that, he has a legitimate chance to overtake Jose Altuve. At the very least, he has a chance to make the reserves for this All-Star team. Is it a kind of a long shot? Yes. Will it happen? Probably not, but it's definitely something to consider when you're looking at voting for this All-Star game. The second guy I want to talk about is Michael Wacha. The problem with Michael Wacha is I just simply don't know how all-star pitchers are selected. If someone knows, let me know down below, but it doesn't appear as though we personally can vote on the pitchers in the All-Star game. I don't know if it's based off of player votes or the owners or maybe the league themselves picks the starting pitchers, but Michael Wacha, in my opinion, deserves to be in that conversation. If you take a look at the best pitcher in the AL right now, Justin Verlander, Michael Wacha's stats aren't entirely that far off of his. He's got a little bit higher of an ERA, about 0.4 points away from being around the same area Justin Verlander is. He has that complete game shutout under his belt, and his ERA plus is right around the same as Justin Verlander. He's only about 5 or 6 points away. That, in my opinion, is definitely enough to be in that conversation. Again, I'm not entirely sure how the voting process works for starting pitchers. I'm trying to remember years past. I couldn't remember if they had a couple of starting pitchers on the team. I think they do. So if they do, then Michael Wacha should be one of those guys, maybe in the should be in category. But because I don't know the entire process, I put him in the dark horse category. This one, not even close to as much of a long shot as Trevor Story, and definitely not as close to a long shot as the next guy we're going to talk about. And the next guy we're going to talk about is Christian Vazquez. Now, when we're talking about dark horses, this is the darkest horse on the Red Sox. This is a guy who has a really long shot of making it in, but there's still a chance because when you look at the AL in terms of catchers, the two guys who are leading right now in terms of at least the YouTubers I've seen and people I've talked to about the All-Star votes have in their ballots. That's Trevino on the Yankees and Alejandro Kirk on the Toronto Blue Jays. Both of them having fantastic years, but when you stack them up against Christian Vazquez is right in that mix. He's probably in that third spot. He doesn't have the same stats that Trevino or Kirk do, but again, like Trevor Story, this voting process is open for a couple more weeks, which means in the next couple of weeks, Christian Vazquez could make a crazy play and end up on the Twitter or the TikTok or whatever. He could go on a run where he has a 3 multi-hit games in a row or something like that that brings his average up. There's still a chance that Christian Vazquez could sneak his way into a position on this All-Star team. Do I think that he'll end up as a starter? Probably not. I don't think Kirk or Trevino are going to give up that much ground to make him a starter, but there is a chance, a small chance, that he ends up passing one of them and ends up as a reserve. And those are my list of people who I think on the Red Sox right now at least deserve a look at when we're talking about All-Star games. Let me know in the comment section down below what you think of my list of players, what you think of my categories. Is there someone on this team that I'm completely missing that you think deserves a shot at the All-Star game that I just simply didn't mention? Is there a guy on here that you don't think deserves a chance at the All-Star game? Let me know all your thoughts on the All-Star game and the Red Sox in it down below. As always, if you've made it to the end of this video, do me a favor, make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button. If you haven't already and you made it to the end of this video, you clearly enjoy the content and we talk Red Sox almost every single day. Also, make sure you guys are hitting the like button on these. Again, it is the best way to help this channel out. One more thing, if you enjoy this video, share it with a friend who loves the Red Sox as much as you do, because there's a good chance that they'll enjoy this video too. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one, and I will see you in the red seats.